right, let's take a tour of my van. I spent about 6 months building this, and I've done another video in the past, but this is an updated one for a couple changes I've made. And let's roll right on inside. I know that's what everyone wants to see here. So we'll go wide angle. So when I bought this is a Class B. It's on a 95 40 250. And what makes this particularly unique is it is four-wheel drive, which is really rare to get a combination of both of those. So when I bought this, the coach was all original and it was in really bad shape. So what I did, and what you guys see here, is I actually stripped this thing all the way down to the bare walls and rebuilt everything. The general layout is pretty similar to what it was as a Class B, but of course I did not only aesthetically and material wise make some changes, but I did make some mild changes in terms of the layout. But let's go ahead and start right here in the kitchen area. So I've just got a standard 2-burner stove right here. This top right here is cherry, so it's hardwood. Added an elongated sink. All of the wood you see in here is actual cedar. Added a little shelf right here for, you know, salt, pepper, dish soap, that kind of thing. Now up here is, I keep my tea kettle just on a magnet. That makes it easy to access and keeps it out of the way. Up here is just a little cubby. You know, I keep some spices, some cups, some tea, that kind of thing. And all of these doors I just made pull off. It's a little unconventional, but in a small space like this, I think it works a little better. Up here above the cab is some more storage. I keep a lot of food in here. This is a little 1-burner butane stove if I ever want to cook outside out there on my little shelf. And, you know, some more food items. And I actually do have a small slow cooker back there that I could use if I wanted to, you know, use a slow cooker to cook up some meat or a little stew or something like that. Up here, just a little shelf, keep some books, some remote controller for the TV and the AC. These are some personal protection items, just some bear spray and a loud air horn, you know, scare away animals, something like that, or let someone know that you're in here. Keep the bear spray wrapped up, that way it doesn't accidentally explode or leak in the heat. A pair of binoculars, a couple rags, and a fire extinguisher for the kitchen area here. This is my little thermostat. I did keep the original furnace in this. I rebuilt it, of course, put in new sensors and new gaskets. This TV right here can actually swivel, so if you pull this little arm here, TV will pop out, and I can swivel it either to the back or to the front, and then it just sits back in there and locks in place when not in use. I did, like I said, everything in here had been rebuilt. I even put in a new vinyl floor. Like I said, this is 4-wheel drive, so there is the 4-wheel drive transfer case actuator. These seats, I put in these new seats. Well, they were salvaged, but they were pulled out of an old van and stored away when it was like brand new. So the seats are almost like brand new. They're really comfortable captain chairs. This seat will rotate around. Got a little reading light up here, and then this table right here lifts up. This is actually walnut, and I treated it with a cutting board oil, so this could actually be used as a cutting board. I typically don't, but it could be. And when this seat rolls around, the way that this is cut, it's perfect to where this is a nice spot to, you know, sit some food if you're eating, or a cup or so forth. But it also serves as a little bit of extra storage, or a little bit of extra counter space in this kitchen. Over here, speaking of counter space, is this is the fridge down here. It's just a one zone refrigerator or freezer, depending on how you set it up. And then I put this, this is actually white oak. I put this hardwood tabletop here on a Lagoon mount, so it can rotate to the side if you were to open up the kitchen or the refrigerator. But it also serves as another counter space for this kitchen here. Also down here, I added a drawer with a little removable top here, so I can just store, you know, quick access odds and ends. And then down here, I usually just use this as, I use those little grocery store plastic bags, and I use that for trash. And then down the base that this refrigerator sits on is also a drawer, and, you know, I keep, you know, pots, pans, things like that. Down there is more USBs, cigarette lighter socket. I use that for my heated blanket. This is the internal inverter access, and then you've got two AC switches. One is for shore power, one is to run off the inverter, and, you know, just the ubiquitous MT50 monitor for my electrical system right there. Down here, this is the controls for the water heater. When I rebuilt this, it had a standard 5-gallon capacity one, but I put a tankless water heater. It's definitely a lot more efficient, a little bit faster heating of the water, less water usage. Little USB tab there if I want to charge something, and then this switch right here is for the pump. Now, this, when I bought it, the bathroom had been torn out, but it originally, when this was built as a Class B, did have a bathroom, so I rebuilt the bathroom. This door is solid cedar, and the bathroom is small. There's no way of getting around it. It is a small van, of course, but I did extend it 3 inches wider. Of course, all the plumbing is new. I added a brand new toilet. And it is a wet shower, of course, as I'm sure you guys can imagine. This is pretty small, but it is nice to have a shower, and on a 4x4 rig especially, that you can take out. And I really like the bath. I use the bathroom in particular mostly, but it is nice to have those facilities. I debated not putting it in, but I'm so glad that I put it in the end. So what you see back here is the sleeping slash, you know, lounging area. So I personally use this for myself, a solo traveler, when I go out camping and stuff. So I usually just sleep over here to the left, and I am completely satisfied with that bed space. But over here is another seating area. Underneath both of these areas, there's flip-up doors. So underneath this bed is a ton of storage right here. Over here, this mostly accesses plumbing, you know, the furnace, the water heater, stuff like that. But there is a little bit of storage down there if you wanted it. I've got a full-size fire extinguisher back here, so there's 2 in here. And as you guys see right here, we've got another table. This is walnut. This is solid walnut on a Lagoon mount. So this thing can swivel all around, and this makes a really nice little seating area. Now, the width of this table up here is the same exact width of this little walkway space here. And you guys see these hardwood rails here. So if you wanted to extend the sleeping area, you could pull the table off, sit it down on those rails. Of course, you'd have to remove the Lagoon table, which is pretty easy, and you can extend the bed. I typically don't use it that way. I just use this side of the bed here, and this is for some seating. I did add some seat belts back here, so if I wanted to carry a third passenger, I can. And then, you know, all these decorations are are handmade items that a good friend of mine made. He made this flag, and my little coyote there. I love coyotes. So up here is some overhead storage. And this is, you know, I primarily keep clothes and extra blankets. Now, there are 2 windows back here. What I do is, this is just my personal preference, is these are EPS panels wrapped in a duck fabric. And obviously they're cut to size, and I just insert them in those windows. Gives a complete blackout plus a lot of insulation. And that's how I typically run when I'm using it. But they can be pulled out if you want some extra light. Back here, this is a 5,000 BTU window unit, and I'll show you guys the housing on the back. This can run completely off grid. I'll touch on my electrical system a little bit later. Over here is another rear window, but I basically have this blocked off. And something I did here, which is a little bit different than what you see in most fans, is I actually built a wall back here. I never saw myself wanting to access the rear for any reason. So I thought the wall made it look a lot nicer, and I was able to insulate it a lot better, as you guys will see back there. And then I did little touches like this. So this is a new addition that I, on my 2025 update here, is I was going through my garage, and I found this old vintage first aid box, and it actually still had contents. This is I bought this years ago. I actually don't even remember specifically buying it, but I'm always a military surplus junkie, and this was a first aid kit that was I don't know what country it was from. I saw some instructions in there in Cyrillic, so probably some sort of Eastern European country. But I saw it, and I just thought it had this cool vintage look, and I really like how it folds out. So as you guys see, it could fold up into itself, and when you open it up, it folds out like this. So it's a really nice way to access stuff. And you know, this was originally a first aid kit, and I have a few other odds and ends, but I primarily use it as a first aid kit myself. And then doing this one-handed, so bear with me, but it just folds up like that unto itself. And you just snap these little buckles in place, and that's a nice, I think it gives it a cool vintage look in here. I think it really matches with the aesthetic, but it's a nice use of space too. And for something like first aid items, you know, I keep some like fire starting items if I have a little campfire I want to start or something, but it makes it really, really easy and quick to access. I left the straps in there, and this is actually just a fleece jacket I roll up, and I could just stow right there. I think it's little things like that that give these campers a personal touch, and I really, really like. But this has been a labor of love. I spent so much time in here, and you know, personalizing it, and man, it's just so warm and cozy and inviting in here. It's very well insulated too. I used a couple different kinds of, I used some insulating boards, but mostly I used Thinsulate. And it's actually 2 layers in all the walls. The floor is insulated. The ceiling or roof, however you guys want to define it, that's insulated. So this thing is super quiet, stays super cool, stays super warm. Let's go outside and look at some of that stuff on the outside. So don't mind the van, it's a little dirty. I took it out in the desert here, kicked up some dust. Again, going back to, I personally kind of like it just dark and private in there. I cut these are EPS panels, and you guys will see I attached some Thinsulate insulation on the back side, and these are just a friction fit into these windows. Again, it gives it complete blackout, but you know, really nice insulation too. Up there, I added a little awning, and I didn't talk about the truck. This is a 95 Ford E250. It's got the 351 in it, which I love the 351 as a side note. This is a very rare truck. This was originally built as a Class B, so it had, you know, the coach built in there. It's titled as a Class B, which has or as an RV, which has a lot of advantages. You know, they had put it in the high top. It's got gray tank, black tank. a legitimate propane tank down underneath there under the door. Really well, you know, a lot of things that be really made it easy for the build out. And then of course, like I said, this had been converted later in its life into a 4-wheel drive. So it's very rare to see a Class B. It's very rare to find a 4-wheel drive van as a whole, and it's very rare to find one that was a Class B. And then of course, this had been all modernized, all new plumbing, you know, updated items like tankless water heater, and as you guys will see, the electrical system has been updated. So up there on top, that's 400 watts of solar, so two 200-watt panels. And if you guys will notice this little divot there, this originally had a rooftop AC, very inefficient, and wasn't even working properly. So I ripped that out, put the panels over the top, and then there is a vent fan which sits underneath there, which was accessed, sits right above the bed area. This van, I think it has a 4-inch lift on it, but spare tire back here. And this right here is that AC box. So this is custom built by myself. It's vented, and then if you were going to run the AC, you would actually just open this external door and run the AC. I think it gives it a really nice clean look back here and also protects the AC. Have my little shovel here, obviously very useful, some spare fuel. Let's take a look inside of here. Now this isn't as pretty as the inside, but so back here, you guys have heard me say Thinsulate a lot of times. If you guys aren't familiar, this is what Thinsulate is. It's kind of like a insulating blanket. It's really commonly used in a lot of camper builds and stuff like that. I really love this stuff. So this is the back side of that wall. Of course, this is insulated with that Thinsulate. Where you guys saw the AC come through, that's that little hatch there. And then all these doors are also insulated. So one thing that it was important to me with this AC, particularly considering this is a vehicle that, you know, you're unlikely to have access to shore power a lot, being 4-wheel drive, and I can go out in the desert and, you know, camp in remote areas, is I wanted this AC to be able to run off of the battery system. So with this 280 amp hour battery, without any solar, I could probably run this AC, depending on different circumstances, 6.5 to 7 hours. With solar input, you know, that number just goes up. So that's a pretty incredible capability. And like I said, this van is pretty well insulated. Though this is just a 5,000 BTU unit. You know, I've done some tests in the summer. It takes a little while to cool the whole thing down, but it definitely does. So it is a very useful item. And I think it's adds a lot of comfort and flexibility to, you know, your off-grid travels like I do. And pretty much everything you guys see down here has been rebuilt. All of the plumbing has been redone. Right here, I have a little outdoor shower set up. There is a place to have some shore power. So the bottom outlet here is shore power. The upper runs off the inverter, and there's 2 outlets on the inside. Back in here, I've got my fuse box right there. And then back in there, I have all of my electrical system. I have a 2200 watt inverter. I have a 280 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. As you guys could see though, I have a lot of extra space, so I could either use that for some storage, or I could throw some extra batteries in there if I wanted to. And this thing can actually be charged via 4 mechanisms. I have the DC to DC charger. You could plug it into shore power and charge a battery. I have the 400 watts of solar on the roof, but something else I recently added for this update video, which I actually really like, is I added a second solar charge controller, and I hooked up a port with a ZAMP hookup right here. Thought that was a really nice clean setup that allows me to plug in and use flexible solar panels. And I have the dual solar charge controllers, so you know, if there's any interference between the 2 solar panels, it doesn't affect the output. So I can get full output on with this external foldable panel. and simultaneously have full input from the 400 watts of solar on the top. So this is the panel I carry with me typically. This is just a 200 watt flexible one. At face value, having this capability may not really seem like a big deal, but it actually really is. And the reason is, this gives you a lot of versatility. You know, I can't really angle the panels on the roof to the sun. You know, I'm just kind of stuck with what they are. And if I want them to produce energy, you know, the van has to be out in the open. But I think we can think of a lot of cases where you might want to park the van in the shade, or maybe, you know, you don't have access to full sun, you know, if you're in the middle of the forest or something. And having this external mount with a second solar charge controller, and using a foldable solar panel, it gives you just a lot more flexibility. So this is the fourth mechanism. I'm counting 2 different mechanisms through the 2 different solar systems because they work totally separate. So when it's not in use or I'm traveling, this 200 watt flexible or foldable panel just folds up like this, and it just sits right there, and then this door just sits and it holds up back in there, so I'm don't have to have it in the passenger compartment. So, but I think that's a really useful thing, and I'm surprised you guys you don't see it a lot more. And you know, over here, obviously when this was originally made, it had the standard 3-way fridge that had long failed by the time I got this. So I blocked off the 2 vent and service accesses for this. And then I just added some of those baby traction boards on there. You know, I do take this off-road a lot. Now, I've never, to be honest with you, I've never actually been stuck in this thing, but it's nice to have them. But probably what I use them most for is you can drive up on them and kind of helps level the van if you're in an unlevel area there. But yeah, guys, this is you know, a little updated tour, and you know, a couple things I've added and modified, but I really like this van. I really like this setup. It's a very rare van, and you know, you're always tinkering with stuff like this, but it has worked out really well for me. So let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching. All right, so we're going through some pretty thick sand right here. We're gonna cut right across it, and we're gonna go up in that little slot there, and we're gonna find our way. Look at this, just plowing right through this sand. It doesn't even, oh, sorry, a little bumpy there. This thing just doesn't quit. Thanks for watching, everybody.